And I'm a 7th grader here at Cathedral. I started in the Regina program in the 1st grade when I was 6 years old. My memory is a little fuzzy, but my mom remembers that 1st grade was stressful and there were a lot of tears. I now realize that learning and reading and writing was different for me than the other kids. I was working so hard to keep up with everyone else, but I couldn't keep up no matter how hard I tried. Mrs. Hadaway and Mrs. Minello recognized how hard it was for me and recommended that I work with the Regina program. It was at that time that I started to work with Mrs. Pollock. I worked with her 3 times a week and for 45 minutes at a time. And boy, did I dread it. 45 long minutes working on reading and language, our worst nightmare. I would try to distract her or make an excuse not to do it. Right, Mrs. P? But the best part was Mrs. P understood that I was doing those things because it was hard and embarrassing for me. She was always encouraging and learned that I love games. So she always found time at the end of our tutoring session to play a game and to make it more fun for me. In the beginning, we worked on sounds of letters and groups of letters, syllables, comprehension, reading out loud, and writing. The hardest part was keeping focused and reading out loud. The letters looked smaller, jumbled together, and I easily lost my place. The sounds of letters were difficult. To read out loud showed just how vulnerable I was. Mrs. P always worked with me, encouraging me and practicing. If it weren't for her, I would not be here tonight reading this for you. As I got older, Mrs. Pollock helped me with my time management skills, organization, and study skills. She also taught me to advocate for myself and to ask for help. I graduated the program halfway through my 6th grade year. My parents were not ready for me to go, but Mrs. Darby and Mrs. Pollock knew that I was ready to go on my own. I was nervous, but I knew I was ready to. The best thing about the Regina program is the tutors and knowing how much work they put into their students to help them succeed. I knew that Mrs. P was invested in me. She never gave up on me. She still follows my progress and checks in on me, and is still available to me whenever I might need her help to review a paper I've written. I think the best thing about the Regina program is I think I have a friend forever in Mrs. P who will always believe in me. I'm not gonna lie. Reading is not my favorite thing to do. But I do it more and dislike it less. I would say my favorite book is Fish in a Tree. This is a book about a young girl with dyslexia and how she uses distraction to survive school. The title comes from a quote from Albert Einstein. Everyone is smart in different ways, but if you judge a fish on its ability to climb a tree, it'll spend its whole life thinking it's stupid. We need to embrace our differences and realize that we all learn our own way. To the student with dyslexia, I would say, embrace what makes you different. Advocate for yourself. To some, dyslexia is a disadvantage. It isn't easy, but you're in good company. George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Albert Einstein, Steve Jobs, Steven Spielberg, Henry Ford, and Picasso all had dyslexia and have faced the same challenges as you, and has turned this perceived disadvantage into an advantage, or even a superpower. Thank you.